Now, Sports Talk with Brodes. Here's Hunter Brody.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Sports Talk with Brodes. As always, we are broadcasting live from the beautiful Manscaped Man Cave. You will receive 20% off and free shipping with the code BROD at manscaped.com. The Dodgers win the World Series. It's not shocking. They were the better team throughout this series against the Rays. They were the best team all season long. They are a juggernaut. They have an obnoxious amount of talent. They have a great front office. The better team won. But I would love to dive into the decision, if you will. And when I say that, it almost sounds like LeBron James speaking to the media saying that he's going to go play for the Miami Heat. But no. This decision is what Kevin Cash decided to do. And I know that there is a lot of outrage. When you look at the stats from Blake Snell, it was phenomenal. 5 1/3, 9 strikeouts, 73 pitches, and 0 walks. So no doubt about it. He was on fire. That Dodgers lineup, the lethal elite lineup that I just praised them for being, was struggling. They couldn't find him out at all. They couldn't figure him out. The third time through the lineup, though, is something that this Rays team is accustomed to. I know a lot of individuals right now are freaking out about analytics and how bad it is for baseball and how it's an embarrassment based off of that one decision. The Rays, the Tampa Bay Rays, with this payroll, just went 6 games with a team that utilizes very similar analytics because of Andrew Friedman coming over from the Rays organization, and they battled with a team that has significantly way more money than them. This works. It failed in this spot, but it works. Look at where they are, and they have had a window of good success over the last handful of years utilizing this method. So it didn't work in this game, and to be fair, I wouldn't be mad if Blake Snell continued. I wouldn't have been mad, but I'm also not screaming at Kevin Cash for him making that type of decision. And to be fair, no matter what he says after the game about having a plan or not having a plan, this is an organizational philosophy that they believe in, that they use. And when you have a script, you go by your script. You go with what got you here. You go down with the ship. It didn't work. And Nick Anderson has struggled. It's not like during the playoffs he has been lights out. Going up against Mookie Betts, you have a guy that is very solid when it comes to right-handers, which is wonky considering he's a righty at the plate, but he does murder the baseball against righties. And Blake Snell did have the top of the Dodgers lineup guessing throughout 2 times, but that third time is definitely a difference maker. I'm not pissed off if Kevin Cash and the Rays stick with Blake Snell, but to crush them for what got them here, I find that very ridiculous. Look at Blake Snell's last handful of outings. 4 2/3, 4 innings, 5 innings, 5 innings, 5 2/3. That's what they do. This is who they are, and I honestly feel like there were plenty of individuals who turned on the World Series for Game 6 because you're getting deeper in the series. There's nothing else on tonight, and they don't watch the Rays and know their identity, so they see a move like that, and that upsets them because 2020 baseball and because of analytics. This is their identity. Why go away from what got you to the World Series Game 6? I'm not bashing the decision as an organization as a whole. I mentioned how the Dodgers use analytics and how Andrew Friedman came from the Rays front office and now he's part of the Dodgers front office using the same numbers and using the same data. The Dodgers just pitched a bullpen game. Let me say that again. The Dodgers just pitched a bullpen game in a closeout Game 6 situation in the World Series. And they also did it in Game 2. There are numbers to support why they went down that road. And they pitched Gonsolin, who realistically hasn't been what he was throughout the regular season in the playoffs. but numbers told them, hey, let's go with bullpen games here, and a lot had to factor in with Walker Buehler and other pitchers on their staff. Hell, Clayton Kershaw went 5 2/3 in his second outing, 5 1/3, 5 2/3, one of the two, and people were fired up that he got yanked early. That is the way the game is trending. And I know that upsets people, but for everyone really unhappy with what Kevin Cash did and what the Rays did, the Dodgers just won using analytics to the same degree. The only difference is they have a ton of money to go out and spend on a lot of studs to help make those numbers work even better than what the Tampa Bay Rays can get out of their players. The better team won. At the end of the day, the better team won, and in this game specifically, the Rays scored 1 run off of a solo shot in the first inning of the game. It's not going to get it done. So no matter how long Blake Snell went, if he was able to go a couple more innings, there was going to be a point when Nick Anderson came in, where Fairbanks came in, where these pitchers came in, and who's to say that they weren't going to blow it in that spot? I just feel that people need to recognize that the Rays always use this method. That's why they're so unique. That's why they're so special. That's why it's so fun to talk about the fact that, what? This team made it against the Dodgers? G-Man Choi, Brandon Lau, Joey Wendell, Adames. This team that uses Yarbrough as a starting opener, right? I mean, there's so many wonky things about how the Rays work. Well, you know why they work? Because they make these type of decisions. It's not going to be 100% in this specific scenario. It backfired, but I'm someone who supports living and dying by who you are. Do what got you to a certain spot. It's clearly successful when you look at a long period of time. I know people might not think that way because they don't enjoy this version of baseball, but the way I always tie this together is, imagine watching basketball, the NBA, in 2020 with someone who doesn't shut up and all they talk about how this isn't 1990s basketball and how it used to be physical back in the day. Well, if you don't like it, don't watch it. Stop bitching and complaining about it. This is where baseball is headed. And you have Big Papi and A-Rod after the game talking about, all the numbers, yada, 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 and the decisions by the Rays, and they heard Blake Snell talk, and Blake Snell was fired up talking about how he felt like he had his best stuff, and he wanted to go super deep, and he wanted that moment, and he wanted to make adjustments. They were just reaching about how numbers this, numbers that, numbers this, because they grew up in an era where that wasn't the case. The Dodgers just won using the same individual that has created the success in Tampa Bay. You're telling me that they didn't utilize the same type of information to help benefit their team? The Dodgers go so heavy in the analytics. So this whole narrative that analytics ruins baseball and analytics is bad, I just can't get behind that conversation. Once again, would I be mad if they went off script and stayed with Snell? Absolutely not. My point is, I can support both decisions. This isn't the first time that a manager was crushed for poor judgment. And it's hard for me to make that statement because I personally don't believe that Kevin Cash was like, hold on, let me do something today at a gut feel. I'm going to pull Blake Snell. This is their approach. This is how they operate. It was almost predetermined. Hey, third time through the lineup, you're going to be out of here. But this isn't the first time. Cash is getting a lot of the blame, so for this statement, it makes sense. This isn't the first time a manager got destroyed in October for pulling a pitcher or keeping a pitcher in, and that being the difference in the game. But once again, I mentioned the one run. Rosarina, of course it was him, was the only one to produce. Imagine thinking you're going to beat this Dodgers lineup by scoring one run. It's not a recipe for success, whatever. But speaking of Randy, wow, was that not a fun watch? That was so phenomenal. He was so tremendous throughout this entire series, getting multi-hit games left and right, hitting bombs, finished with 10. Crazy run out of him, and I can't wait to see how he builds off of that moving forward. The Dodgers were scared of him. He was a difference maker, and he was flat out a stud. His celebration after that first home run, crazy. And when I say first home run, the only home run in this. So, but yeah, I mean, look, I get why people are reacting the way that they are, but I do feel like it's necessary to take a couple steps back after your initial thoughts, and you go, okay, look, I know he was dealing, but how can I argue with sticking to a game plan that got you this far? Oh, it's the World Series. You know, you got to keep your studs in there. You got to stick with your aces, Morton or Blake Snell. The Rays don't do that. And I have statistics to back it up. They haven't done it all year, and it has been good for them all year long. People always talk about going with your best guy, going with your best stuff, live and die by your best stuff. Well, look, the bullpen for the Rays was their best stuff all season long. Anderson has struggled in the postseason. He has allowed a ton of runs. I can't deny that. But their bullpen throughout has been their identity. The numbers that they are using say, go and get your guys. Go and get your bullpen help. That will give you the best chance. So they have numbers to say that, and that's why they went out and made that move. You know, analytics backfired on the Dodgers as well. I talked about that Game 4 spot. Now, it was a miracle play. It was a crazy play, and you can play 5 billion baseball games, and that specific play may never happen again. But I feel everyone would justify Randy Arozarena getting nibbled around the plate, him walking, and you going up against Brett Phillips, who hasn't done anything in months, right? Any baseball fan who understands logic in Game 4, if you're Jansen, you would pitch around to Arozarena, you would essentially intentionally walk him, just see if you maybe can get him swinging, and you will take your chance on Brett Phillips. Well, that backfired too. But guess what? I mentioned how that play wouldn't happen in 7 billion baseball games. You're going to take that matchup against Brett Phillips every single day of the week. It just didn't work out in that scenario. You're not going to go up against the hottest hitter in baseball, although you can argue that was Corey Seager on the other side, but you're not going to go up against the best hitter for the Rays if you can go up against a guy that is a nobody, essentially. And it backfired, but does that mean that was the wrong decision? No. I am 50-50 on this move, and I just feel that that is the outlier when you hear the reaction to Kevin Cash. The Rays are nowhere to be found if Kevin Cash didn't pull the strings that he pulled in this season. You know what the difference is? Because I know a lot of people reached out to me about, well, Gabe Kapler did this and the Phillies do this. The difference is these two organizations have an analytical team that the numbers make sense. The numbers match up. The numbers result in success majority of the time. The Phillies have no track record of their numbers people actually working out. They might have a bunch of analytics. It doesn't mean it's the right analytics. If you have the proper people in place and they are good at their job and their number crunching and their equations actually flow and results come from that, well, it's a different situation. It's a different conversation. The Phillies just don't have that. And I was very hard on Gabe Kapler, but I always knew that he was just doing what the front office wanted to do. That's how managers work these days. Everyone talks about gut feel, old school baseball. It's not how it is. And if you don't like it, don't watch. Don't bitch. Don't complain. It's either you accept it or you don't accept it. And there's been some talks about the Rays making this decision. Is that going to change the future of baseball? Were teams rooting for the Rays to succeed so they can go down that road, so they don't have to spend a lot of money and they can prove, look, we don't need to spend a lot of money. The Rays won the World Series without spending a lot. Well, guess what? Getting to Game 6 against this Dodgers team is justifiable to go down the same exact road, and that's why I'm rooting for the Phillies to clean house and to go down an extremely analytical road where they're pulling their starter pitchers after 5 innings, they get a good bullpen, and they don't allow their starters to go through the lineup for a third time. I mean, I'm so down for that because long period of success has been proven. A track record is there when you do it. It's just unfortunate that on the biggest stage, the bullpen blew up a bit. They struggled, and, Nick Anderson wasn't the Nick Anderson of himself that you saw throughout the 60-game regular season. Before we continue, I want to tell you about my friends at DraftKings. DraftKings has brought their expertise to legal sports betting. It's a legitimate sports book based right here in the U.S., so you can rest assured that your funds are totally secure. DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is safe, secure, and reliable. Deposit and withdraw at your convenience. Listen to this deal. It's incredible. All new users have a chance to earn a sign-up bonus up to $1,000. Download the app and sign up using promo code BRODES, BRODES. Head to the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and check out all that they have to offer, including player props, live betting, and so much more. If sportsbooks are not yet available in your state, don't forget DraftKings Fantasy app. They offer millions of dollars in total prizes every single week. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. There was some crazy stuff happening in-game. Justin Turner, COVID-19 news. Something smells fishy about that whole situation. He had to get pulled from the game. They couldn't tell if he had a positive test, so then he had to get retested. That one came back positive. They had a weird read on one of the tests from the previous days. Yet he played the game, and then after the game, he has his mask off during the pictures, and he's hanging out with all of his teammates. In what universe? In what world? But then again, this is the MLB we're talking about. This is Manfred that we're talking about. So there is no legit commissioner in place. There's no one overseeing to make sure that things are going according to plan. And I'm not here to make any jokes on what was happening to Manfred during his speeches, but something wasn't right, and it was somewhat concerning. I heard rumors about maybe it being an earpiece, and there was some sort of bounce back happening in his ear, but there's plenty of clips flying around the Twitter sphere at the moment of previous spots when he was on broadcast, and he was talking just as slow, and it was weird. I mean, hey, maybe that is just Manfred, but it didn't sound right, it didn't feel right, and I'm just hoping there's nothing serious going on. I mean, it did sound that weird to me, and I'm not here to make fun of that scenario because something just didn't add up at all when he was talking. The COVID-19 thing is just weird, and the Justin Turner thing is weird, but somehow, some way, if you remember how we were talking about baseball in the MLB before the season started, my Lord, I can't believe we're here crowning a champion, and not only are we crowning a champion, but it is finally the Dodgers. Clayton Kershaw getting off the schneid, getting that World Series ring. That is definitely going to shut up the haters that claim that he can't play postseason ball whatsoever. He had a strong World Series. The first game he went 6 innings, had a ton of strikeouts, and they pulled him. They had a nice lead, so it was like, hey, Clayton, you did your thing. Second game, questionable pull. Numbers came into play, and they wanted to go down another road, but he was strong in his limited action in that second outing as well. Very happy for him. Very happy for Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts is a tremendous player, a winning player, a stud player, a star player. Difference maker late in the game. He is fantastic and just a good dude too, like just a good, relatable professional athlete. And there were some interesting takes about how he's better than Mike Trout, but come on, you switch Mookie Betts with Mike Trout, and Mike Trout's getting insane production, and it's not a knock on Mookie Betts to say Mike Trout is better. You put Mookie Betts on the Los Angeles Angels, and they're not winning any more games than you have with Mike Trout in there. I'm still taking Mike Trout any day of the week. That's not a knock on Mookie Betts. It's just telling you how good Mike Trout really is. It's not Mike Trout's fault that he's not on the Dodgers, that he's not on the Red Sox. There's so many factors that come into play when it comes to winning an MLB championship and making the playoffs. He just chose to be okay with that organization, and he felt comfortable with that contract. Who wouldn't? And he's okay with being there, but there's a lot of flaws with the team overall. Mano y mano, Mike Trout. It's not close. It's not close. I miss baseball. I miss baseball already. That was my first tweet after I went on a huge episode of defending Kevin Cash. And you can follow me on Twitter, by the way, at Brodes81. I'm a fun follow. I go through live tweets. I tweet out videos. I'm sarcastic with the people. Go over and toss a little follow. Nice little how do you do. Goes a long way. But, yeah, I tweeted instantly, I miss baseball already. My love for baseball has always been there, but it has intensified to this insane level, I would say, over maybe the last 5 years or so. It's getting picked up to this crazy level where I'm thinking about it way more than I ever have during the off season. I'm thinking about winter meetings. I'm just so engaged with all this. And I'll be honest with you, I'm getting to the point where I am way more in favor of the new style of baseball. And I'm so intrigued with, I had a conversation with one of my buddies who I work with at 97.3 ESPN about this off the air one day. It's not so much my support for analytics, but I'm almost intrigued by the thought process of the numbers, of the decisions, why they made this decision, what told them to make this decision. That's the way that I look at it more so than, baseball sucks now, the numbers this, the numbers that. I'm over that part of reacting to where baseball is. I have accepted it, and I'm okay with it, and I don't think that it's a horrendous brand where other brands better when it was more small ball, older school baseball. Sure, I think that was fun, and you had doubles in the gap and singles and stealing bases, and it wasn't all about strikeouts, walks, and home runs. I'm not saying this is the best brand of baseball ever, but I support it more than I ever have, and I'm so intrigued with why they make these decisions, how they come up with this, what matchups they want to go for, what numbers tell them that this matchup is the best way to go. That's what I am so dialed into more than ever before when it comes to these statistics and the data that is utilized. It's not bad to have a ton of information at your fingertips. Should it be the Bible? No, I don't think it should be the Bible. But in baseball specifically, it does have a significant role. Other sports, I question it. Hockey's one of them. And I know football is now being crushed because a lot of teams are going for 2-point conversions because analytics tell you this. I'm not against analytics in other sports, but for baseball, it does have a huge role. And don't forget, I will stress this over and over and over again. Andrew Friedman came from the Rays. He took their method, applied it to the Dodgers, and they do very similar work when it comes to the numbers. So it's shocking that the outrage isn't the same way. Why? Because it actually worked? Because it works more times than it fails based off of the proper numbers that they analyze. They pitched a bullpen game. Gonsolin just started a Game 6 closeout series opportunity instead of Walker Buehler on short rest. Blake Snell, people will argue that you want your best guy to have the ball. Well, then why don't you feel that way against the Dodgers? Oh, you do? Well, guess what? It worked to not go that route. You see what I'm saying? I think the easy feeling and the easy way to go down this hole is Kevin Cash made one of the worst decisions ever in the history of baseball. It didn't work out. All right, so it's easy to go down that road that it wasn't the cleanest move from him. But how many times did that benefit the team? How many times did they win because of that method? How many times did the bullpen step up and shut down the opponent? It was arguably the best bullpen in baseball. It has worked more times than not. Unfortunate part, the time it didn't work, Game 6 of the World Series, in a big moment when nothing else was on TV. So you had a lot of reaction. And I'm not going to claim that I watched 162 of every single Tampa Bay Rays game over the last handful of seasons. And that's why I have the take that I do here. But I've seen them enough. I know how they operate. I've seen them go down this path billions of times. It's hard for me to be upset with sticking to your guns. At that point, you put your hands up. This is who we are. If who we are wasn't good enough this year, we'll reassess. Blake Snell, he was a Cy Young winner. Yeah, 3 years ago. Phenomenal ERA. What was it, 1.89? You know who else had a phenomenal ERA last year? Brandon Workman. This year, dumpster fire on one of the historic MLB bullpens ever at a 7+ ERA for the Phillies. Since his Cy Young award, Blake Snell's that is, 4+ ERA, 3+ ERA. I'm not knocking him. He was stellar in this game, and that's ultimately what matters. But it's not like he was 1.89 Blake Snell all season long because he won a Cy Young previously. Aaron Nola was in the Cy Young conversation a couple years ago. He hasn't been that same pitcher at all since then, and we've been very hard on him for that. It's a weird spot, no doubt about it. It's a weird spot. Wouldn't have been mad if he stayed in, though. You know, you see his reaction. He's mother effing. He's pissed off. It seemed more like, and I know Kevin Cash denied it afterwards, but it seemed very predetermined on how they were going to approach this because, well, 4 2/3, 4 innings, 5 innings, 5 innings, 5 2/3 is Blake Snell's game log. It's almost like there's something to that. Clayton Kershaw, I mentioned. Mookie. Man, what Corey Seager did was outstanding. I put this tweet up. I'll look up the stats again. This was heading into Game 5, and you knew that he was going to win the MVP once he put up these type of numbers. But Game 5 of the World Series, where we at here? Here it is. Corey Seager was hitting .500, 7 for 14, with a 1.560 OPS, only striking out once. This was heading into Game 5. Justin Turner was hitting .444, 4 doubles, 2 home runs with a 1.474 OPS. Those two were smashing the ball left and right. Seager was scary. He was a weapon, essentially, every time he got to the plate. And this one, Blake Snell had his number, so I guess that doesn't look too good on my defending. But to be fair, that's why we keep bringing up that third time around the lineup. There have been plenty of moments where pitchers were left in too long, and they were figured out based off of going through that lineup another time. Who's to say that that wouldn't have happened? Now, you want to live and die with that opportunity? Fine. I'm cool with it. I won't yell at Kevin Cash for going against his script and keeping Snell in there after 9 strikeouts, 0 walks, 73 pitches in 5 1/3 after seeing the results against Mookie Betts, Seager, you name it, Turner. At the same time, I think it's reasonable and rational to take a couple steps back, analyze who the Rays were. They had a tremendous regular season. They had a tremendous postseason run. They were 2 games shy of winning the World Series. Don't bash the method because of one moment. And keep in mind, the Dodgers use heavy analytics. Don't let that slip through the cracks. The analytics conversation, man, I'll tell you what, it is something. The get off my lawn people, they're really starting to get to me a bit. Maybe if you approached it a different way, you could appreciate it more. Doesn't need to be the Bible, but there's something to it. And teams that are winning, teams that are successful, they use it. It might not be to the level that the Rays go through, to the intense level, but when you are a small market team, the way that they are, you're kind of stuck going down that road at times. It's just by nature. That's how you have to be successful when you are a tiny-ass market that can't spend a bunch of money on all these stars. Yeah, they can go sign Mookie Betts. Yeah, right. JT Realmuto, yeah, I'm sure they're going to go out and get him. Bryce Harper, yeah, they were in the running for him and Manny Machado. No. You got to be creative. You got to have great minds in place. And hopefully this leads to Neander finding a job in Philadelphia, crunching those same numbers and having a bigger payroll. So then he can have an outcome like the Los Angeles Dodgers here in Philadelphia. But it wouldn't work because this fan base wouldn't support it. They wouldn't be able to embrace it because it's all about the hard-nosed, hard-working, blue-collar guys that wants to go longer in the games, that want to throw 120 pitches, whether that's the best thing for the team or not. That's what this team and this city falls in love with. Aaron Rowan, who runs into the wall and breaks his nose, it's more about that than actual production. A guy who might not run out a grand a ground ball like a Manny Machado, oh, I don't want him, but I want Aaron Rowe and the guy who will run into the wall. I mean, it literally makes no sense. This city would not support it, but guess what? They should, because it shows that those teams win baseball games. And you got to bring a good mind over here, a smart baseball mind, a guy who knows what he's doing and knows how to get the proper information together. Neander, hello, how you doing? This is John Middleton. Yeah, let's have a conversation. Come into my office. Wear a mask. That's simple. It's that simple. He's going to be in the running for a lot of teams. Look, the better team won, though. At the end of the day, the better team won. The Dodgers are stacked. They're a juggernaut. They deserve to win. And there's no way that you should look at this season, look at any of these seasons and go, oh, that doesn't count. Why does that not count? Sure, it counts. 60-game season. It wasn't 162, but every squad had an opportunity. And they came out on top because, well, they had a great mindset. They had a great philosophy, and they had players execute. How about this? Urias? Wow. He might be one of the most underrated players in this entire series. He was stellar. He was awesome. Urias coming in, boom, 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 striking out. The Rays' offense was struggling. It had no identity in this game, and they look overmatched. Very unfortunate. Randy didn't, though. Not Randy. Love myself some Randy. Come on. Rosarina, stud. So this episode of Sports Talk with Brodes is also sponsored by Orbit Energy and Power. With over 20 years of experience in the industry, they are home to your solar experts in residential and commercial projects. They make sure that your project is completed easily and properly by using high-quality materials and trained professionals to get the job done right. They also provide water purification systems, backup energy services, battery storage, and more. So check out their information down below in the description. Thank you all so much for listening, and I will see you next time.